Welcome to the Dog Psychology Podcast with Todd and Art.
All right. You know what the podcast this is, and you know who we are, so I don't need to announce that. So
Good morning.
Good morning, or good afternoon, actually.
Yeah, good afternoon. What's going
All
on?
right.
Nice
Not
hat.
a whole lot. Thank you. Actually, let me tell you why I actually changed it. This is Oceans Academy. I got this from Lisa Woodard. She's friends with a girl who does like paddleboarding, professional paddleboarder. I forgot her name, Amber or somebody. Anyways, I got them because it's the initials AO, Art Ortiz, right? But the reason why I got this color is because we always are dressed the same. Black shirt, black, glasses, and the hat. And so I wanted to kind of change it up because I haven't told you this yet. I had a high school friend send me one of your videos. And she's like, hey, check out this guy. He reminds me of you.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
And I was like, that's funny. I go, he's a friend of mine and we do podcasts together. And she's like, no shit. She goes, I actually thought it was you because of the hat, the glasses, the shirt. So I was like, I think I got to change it up for the podcast, so.
Dude, I've been wearing this uniform since I was 19.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Yeah. If it doesn't break, if it works, stick with it.
Yeah.
So interesting week, I talked at the end of the last podcast about the appointment that I was going to have with this guy who claims to have the smartest dog in the world. Now, I'm not going to say like who it was. You saw who it was. I don't want to disparage the guy. The guy's very passionate. He believes deeply in what he's doing. I can't exactly figure out if it's for monetary purposes or he feels like he's on a mission. And basically what he's trying to prove, and this is where we can open up a huge discussion about this, because I have long said, I think it does dogs a disservice to say they're smart. And the reason is that instantly what I see people humanize intelligence. And so you start to think your dog can, and the big one to me is that you will immediately believe your dog can use logic and reasoning skills. So it makes you inconsistent because you believe your dog can make choices based on variations in things as opposed to this small consistency, right? So the one with the leash would be a lot of people let a dog pull on the leash when it needs to go to the bathroom. But then there's other times they don't want the dog to pull on a leash, but they don't ever consciously make those distinctions. The dog does that. Yeah. So that's what I mean by the absence of logic and reasoning. So this guy wants to prove his dog has eidetic memory. Now, what we've learned, eidetic memory is more of the memory we use. So if I say like red Corvette, right? So we can think of different, and right now, if I said red Corvette, we're going to be thinking of red Corvettes in different ways, in different places.
Different years.
All of it, right?
Models, yeah.
Now, I think the easiest way to say it, dogs are associative, meaning that they have to be in front of a red Corvette, right? So the red Corvette has to be there for the brain to have somewhat of a memory, if you wanted to call it that, of that. So it's an associative memory. And so this guy is claiming his dog can learn something and hold on to it and retrieve it in ways that, you and I have never seen, right? And what he's tried to teach is like this counting system where the dog uses paws at him to represent a certain number, which means a letter. So he'll ask different questions. So I'm sitting down waiting for this guy to come in and I go, what do you think is going to come in? I go, dog's going to pull him in and jump on us.
So are you at his place or what?
No, I'm at Monica's. I'm down in Fort Lauderdale. So what happened is I went down for a group class and then an individual private lesson. And so I'll give you a background. So I get a message from Monica that there is a man who claims to have one of the smartest dogs in the world, and he wants me to meet it so I can write a letter to tell how fascinated I am about this. Yeah. So as soon as I hear this, I tell Monica, I go, I don't want to do this. I go, you got to be kidding me. I go, to come and assume I'm going to be fascinated to write a letter. I go, I'm not going to do it. I don't write anybody letters. I've never written a letter. And she goes, Monica has more influence on me than my own mom somehow.
Which kind of is our mom in a way.
Well, I'm down there a lot. I see her more than most of us. And she does. She has a way of getting me to do things I've told her I don't want to do. She's just I have a great deal of respect for her. So I said, all right. And she said, here's the thing. You don't have to write the letter if you don't want to write the letter, but you have to just do the appointment. So I look at all the stuff I sent you. And so there's letters written from a sports psychologist. There was a letter written from a vet tech.
For a vet.
There was video. What's that?
There's actually a vet, I thought.
Oh, I thought it was not a vet. I thought it was a vet.
I have it right here. Let me see.
Is it vet or vet tech?
It's a vet.
It's a vet. Okay. From a vet. And there was a couple other things. And so I read through it and I watched the videos. Now, in watching the videos, it's very sloppy when I send you the video, right? When you see the videos, it's kind of sloppy for the smartest dog in the world. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, so the conclusion I come to is that, all right, maybe these people that spend 6 hours a day working with their dogs, and it's funny that this other thing that we just posted came up, 6 hours a day working with their dogs, tap into this unconscious conduit of conversation that dogs can easily, naturally do, so to speak. And these people wear these answers on their face. And I think even with the same thing with that psychologist that taught the dog, whatever that dog's name was, all those words, because that guy was getting into the fact that the dog could make inferences, meaning if I say this, this, and this, but I don't mention the toy you want, you know the toy I'm talking about. And that was what he was showing. And he was going into actual verbiage, like English language verbiage that the dog understood nouns versus different things. And again, I think what you're looking at is in the presence of face-to-face working constantly with a dog up close, I think you can communicate with them in a various ways. Well, anyways, this guy starts doing stuff and it's just bad, dude. It's just bad. And I'm joking because like the dog's pulling him all over the place. Dog's got a prong collar on. He's about an 80-pound lab.
Yeah.
He's got a prong collar on, yanking this guy all over the place. And my first thing is, why don't you just tell him not to pull, bro? You know, it's like this is where if you've tapped into this giant vault of intelligence, how come you can't get him to not jump on everybody he approaches? Because when the guy trains the dog, he gets in the face and he does all these food gestures, and the dog is pawing at him and then jumps up as part of this little ritual. So every human he interacts with, the dog jumps on, including children. So this guy's tapping into all those smarts,
but it doesn't know how to figure out how to not make your dog jump.
You see what I mean? So I'm like, what is the benefit of this to take this dog to mathnasium and hold up all these things that look like it's adding up money? I see it's cute for kids, but he would get combative with me when I wouldn't follow him down his rabbit hole. And this is the example I use. And
it's almost like a magician in a way, because, you know, magicians, you know, I study card magic, and they're always like, you are always following the magician. The magician's already like three steps ahead, but it's already set up. You know what I mean?
I in no way think this guy is trying to pull something over. I don't. Unless he's hiding this super deep motivation that he thinks he can profit off of this, but nobody's touching it. He can't believe why nobody like myself will touch it. This is what I told him. I said, he's a contractor. That's what he does by trade. And I said, don't you understand? Let's switch this around. I said, you're a contractor. I go, tell me what you think the hardest, strongest material that you can work with is in contracting. Right. And I'm just trying to make this analogy. And we're sitting in front of something that's got brick on it. He's got tile, brick, concrete. I go, okay, all right, tile, brick, and concrete. I go, what if some dog trainer rolled into town and said, you know what, man? I think cotton is the strongest material that we can build with. You got to believe me. I go, you got 25 years in the contracting business. Are you just going to let go of that and believe this fucking dog trainer that says cotton is now the strongest material in contracting? No, because you have 25 years experience that says, nah, brick and concrete are pretty strong. And that's what my experience is telling me. But you're asking everybody to abandon their beliefs that they've used their entire career to jump onto the bandwagon with you. Can you see how that would be challenging for some people? And then he would get really, I don't know if this guy was on the brink of like mentally losing it, or again, if he just got caught up in some weird passionate rabbit hole and he thinks somehow getting a dog to paw at him has relevance. So you looked at the tapes. This is my explanation of what I went through with the guy. What do you think?
I mean, when I saw the videos, I was like, it's impressive, you know, but it's also kind of controlled, you know what I mean? And I don't want to say...
I asked him if I could do it.
Right.
So I asked him, I go, can I do it? And he goes, no. And then one of the other guys out there, it was a great question, that got Cadu, that big Brazilian dude. He goes, can you he goes, how do you do it? And he goes, I can't tell you. It's proprietary. I've got big things in the oven. So it was weird. It was like, it was that type of thing. So go ahead.
Yeah, but also because when I was reading the letter, the one that the vet had wrote, and this is the one thing that stood out the most. I'm not going to say the dog's name, obviously. It says, all this to say, my entire life and career, I have never, ever, I repeat, never met another dog like the dog. And it, you know, has a bunch of other stuff in there, but I don't know. Like when I saw the videos, I was like, I mean, it's cool.
In person, it was very, very, very sloppy.
Yeah.
There was nothing I could actually watch that made me think the dog was accomplishing anything. Right? It's just weird. It's this guy has sat in front of this dog and taught it something, and I think doesn't even realize that the dog is vibing off of something on him that's not what it is that he sees. And that's the hardest part to disconnect him from, because he thinks everybody's out to discredit him. I'm not trying to watch it to see he's proving a fake. I never even approached it that way. I just wanted to see two things. Am I going to see something that blows me away? And if so, can I see what it could be fed from? And the best I can come up with, and I even told him this, and I'm like, dude, this answer I'm giving you, my perception of what I think it could be, I think is pretty awesome, which is you get so connected to your dog in a way that they're reading your mind. Now, this dog wasn't doing that. This dog was pretty disconnected from this guy. Until he brought out a bag of food and started his tricks, the dog was everywhere but with him. So, you know, that's like seeing somebody come in and their dog is everywhere but with the person. They're like, I need this dog to detect my seizures. Dude, the dog hasn't even looked at you once in 15 minutes. I don't know what it's going to detect for you. So it was that weird disconnect while this guy's claiming this amazing intellectual ability. And I think it was hurting the dog. The dog was a little bit confused, you know, and
what were some of the things that he had to do?
so he had it, he would have it add. And the thing that was hard is that he'd be like, what's his name? And he was asking me. So it was like T, and the dog would hit him a certain number of times. And then he would say, that's 7. That means T. And we're like, all right. And then the dog would touch him a couple more times. And that's O. That means O. We're like, okay. So it wasn't like this clear, obvious.
It's not like you had a chart that said 7 is T.
Not like in the videos. So he did this just as he was telling us. So, and again, what I mean by sloppy is I've seen animals interact with their handlers in this counting way. And like you say in card tricks, I mean, a good magician, you don't even know necessarily what you're seeing. You just see these results. It didn't have that feel to it. And the man's emotional energy behind this was a combination of, you know, I see your passion, but I'm marginally concerned at the same time.
So how did you guys end it?
I taught him to get the appointment. He had to come in and work on something. I'm not going to come in and be a circus show. I mean, I don't want, you know what I mean? You're not just going to come in and perform. That's not what I do. So I helped him with walking without pulling. I gave him a halty, and we worked with a halty because the dog, he was so prong collar desensitized. He was laying into the prong collars hard and as strong as he could. So we went to a nose collar, and then I was helping him understand that. So I talked to him as if this was like legit. And I'm like, hey, let me help you do this better, so to speak. So I go, you need to turn him off when you're done, because he's jumping on people because of the way you're working with him. And then you're not turning off the working with him, and he's going up to people and he's doing this same up to their face interaction that he does with the guy. And so I'm trying to get him to see that contextually. And this is hard. And this goes back to what I said at the beginning. If you think your dog is smart, you will not think you have to spell something out so simple that says, when we're done doing this, I need you to go over and act like this contextually, because you think your dog will have an ability to understand more. And so I helped him with that. I helped him understand that coming into these places, he wants to work with these kids. He needs to go in a few times because the dog's jumping on kids. He needs to go in and teach the dog to be calm. And focus on relaxation and getting the dog to associate its job with relaxation. And then you do this performance, and then you get it out of the performance and you go over here. But this guy, he's like somebody that it's probably like what the first dude invented the light bulb would have been like, where anybody that'll talk to you, that's all you will talk about is this light bulb. And that's what he was like. I mean, he would get in these rants. So it was interesting. He'd move in and out of these rants about, well, and then he'd count and he'd show me all these things signed. And he'd be like, okay, well, tell me about this. And then he'd let me teach him some stuff with dogs. And then he'd go in and he'd bring out these dollar bills, and he'd bring out $1 plus $1 plus $5, and then the dog would paw at something. He'd go 7. All right, and he'd go through a couple other things, and I'm like, okay, is there anything else I can help you with? And then he'd ask a couple more questions about dog behavior, and then he would go into these rants about counting, and I'd be like, all right, can I help you with this? Can I help you with it? It was fucking awkward, man. It was really weird. It was as weird as I was expecting it to be. But hey.
Man, it is weird. Better you than me.
Well, yeah, I think sometimes you're right. It's funny. There's certain cases where they're like that. It's definitely going to be you. But I think you might have been actually more obviously like, are you fucking kidding me than me in this case? For some reason, I get curious about their quirkiness. And I wasn't a dick in any way. I never made him like, wrong, you're an idiot. I was just like, look, dude, I don't agree. Sorry, but I don't agree. I think it's coming from something other than what you see. I go, my experience tells me something different than you're saying. And he'd keep showing me all these signatures of different people, but nobody took it further, dude. This is what I'm telling you.
It's like a dog and pony show.
Yeah. So the people that are super impressed, I don't really think understand dog psychology in the sense that they don't even necessarily know what would be out of the ordinary or ordinary, in my opinion. And again, so that's why the letters from people there was nobody from behavior. He contacted a Harvard behavioral school. Like a lot of, like Duke has a canine behavioral part now, and they've had it for years. Duke had a scientist that 15 years ago, I got an email from some guy trying to grow dog behavior belief. Dognition. That's what it was. It was Dognition. It was the website where they're trying to prove dog smarts. And so all these places have these centers, and nobody would get back in touch with them. And I'm like, because everybody's shooting holes in it as soon as they see it.
I think dogs, by the way, I do think dogs are smart, not in the sense like the way that they're trying to define it as. I think dogs actually have, there's a lot of things that I believe that dogs are way stronger than we are in humans.
So explain that. So how do you see they're smart? How?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I don't think that they analyze and they don't, they can't do math, or maybe there are some weird things that, some dogs can do, but like when we talk about like living in the now, like that in itself is not intelligent. It doesn't take intellect, right? But I believe that is a smart way of living life. That makes sense. Like there's just.
Yes, but it's also just a natural way of living life. Does it make it smart?
Yeah. No, it doesn't make them smart. It just makes them like, for example, like when people say like, are you wealthy? Well, it depends what you mean wealth means, Sure. Is it money? Is it like having your family? Like, so it depends what that means. And so I just think that dogs are, again, I don't want to call them intellects, but I do believe that they have something that we all have, but us human beings don't tap into.
Some people, like if you read a couple comments of a post I did, some people say that, dogs are more connected. If you're religious, to God, if you're super energetic, to the energy, whatever the energy source. And honestly, in the absence of consciousness, it's easier to be connected to those things.
By the way, speaking of that, because what you just said, that whole nature aspect, I can't believe I'm going to quote this, but did you by chance watch the video with RFK Jr. on Tucker Carlson? He had a clip about why, nature is so important. Did you see that by chance?
You know what? I think I did, because it was Tucker Carlson interviewed him at his place, right? And
yeah, I don't know, but I just know it was an interview.
Yeah, I actually think I saved it. I couldn't tell you what you're about to say, but for some reason, I think it was enough that I saved it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so he said, why nature is why it's so important and why we should all tap into nature. And it's because he talks about like all like the religions of the world. They all tapped into nature. He's like, Jesus went out into
that's right.
The desert for 40 days. Buddha sat under some tree, and he named like all these and how they were always going, and how they went out to nature and how that was very important and very valuable. And so, he's like, that's why we should protect it, because of the significance of what it does for us. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And then I remember Tucker Carlson said something like, "Wow, I have never heard anything that said so beautiful," which is weird because I'm quoting Tucker Carlson here, but
He probably cackled. But yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the natural side. So I wrote something down here because I had this. I posted this a long, long time ago. I think where people get confused, and to me, it's important not from like a standpoint of we have to make it defined. It has to be defined and written down. It's because I'm always trying to, I guess, correct or right the perception of the people we work with. And what I have seen is that when somebody's calling their dog smart, they are over-interpreting things that will ultimately hurt their dog because the dog won't understand something over here, and they're not. That was weird.
Yeah, sorry, my camera.
They're not honoring the simplicity of, I think, the way the dog does see things. So I call it social intelligence. And I think what people miss is that a dog is wired to study you so well that and this is where everybody always says their dog is smart. And you'll notice this is the context. In any area the human put in time, they'll say their dog can figure anything out. But in any area the owner doesn't put in time, it's the dog's fault. What the owner isn't seeing is that the dog isn't smart. It's that they're extremely adept at figuring out anything you kind of dice out their way, because that's how they communicate with each other. And now that they're living with us and they have to figure it out even more like observantly, that the moment you put an effort and an intention in to communicate more clearly, which is what teaching is, they're going to fucking figure it out every single time because that's what their wiring is. But the moment it becomes, you said, intellectual or problem solving, no dice.
Yeah.
No dice. And that's what I mean is that people don't honor, to me, what I mean in my social IQ is the ability to read you, feel you, understand you, know what you're going through. Now tell me what you want. And if there's no what you want, all right, I'm out. That to me is why it needs to be defined.
Yeah. We always like overcomplicate things. Human beings overcomplicate things. And that's why like when we talk about what is a dog, like when we talk about the pack position, like that complicates things for people. Even, science can complicate things for people. And obviously, that stuff can be important. But when we look at things, forward mind, retreat mind, avoidant mind, accepting mind, like if you just break it down and make it simple as that, like doesn't make it any harder than that. Just make it simple.
That's all I see. Which direction are they moving? Right. And so people talk about their dog being really smart, but then they'll be like, oh, my dog hates this or loves this. And the dog is moving towards or away from something, like, so it's completely countering what you're seeing. I think learning to really, really read a dog is where you will open everything up. And if you want to say that they're smart, you're going to see both that they're not. They're very simplistic in their communications, but they're always looking for it. I mean, that's the thing. And that the scan that I showed you, that I sent you, we can move into, I think is really cool because what it's doing is it's showing that what we've long seen is that the dogs are using a different perception to interpret things. So we can't really innately go, oh, we know we're just like dogs. No, that's the part we need to let go of and stop proving that they're like us and let them be dogs and learn how that can benefit our relationship, as opposed to thinking the more they're like humans, the better it is. I think that's ignorant.
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, I know that we do dogs a disservice when we say that they're like human, or we treat them like humans. And Caesar's been saying that for a long time. I think that's gotten misinterpreted a lot of times because, they are dogs. Like, they're beautiful the way they were created. Let's honor them for the way they were created. Let's meet them, halfway, or let's bring them into the world so that we can, we're bringing them to our world, but we're not meeting them halfway, because we're trying to make them human. Close. And so, it is disrespectful to a dog by treating them like a human.
Well, to me, the funniest thing is some of the people that will go the hardest in the paint, claiming that they're the strongest, to love dogs the most. I'm the biggest dog advocate. Treat them like the biggest fucking person, right? So what's the point? Here you are, and they'll be like, oh, I'm not a big person fan. I'm a dog lover. I love dogs. I don't really like people. And then they bring it in and treat it like a person. Right? I mean, I don't get that. I don't understand. We're in a day and age where everybody has to be whatever they want to be. I mean, you can be a furry if you want to, and we're just supposed to respect that.
Yeah, I'm going to take my kids to the veterinarian and my dogs to the pediatrician.
Right? Exactly. My baby. So that's the thing is I'm all for it. I even tell people, I go, look, I used to like verbiage wise would be like, no, that's wrong. But you can humanize and baby your dog. You just got to treat it like a dog first. right? And that's the hard part, is the person that wants to really baby it is not cut from both of those abilities.
Yeah.
You can baby them, dress them up. Just make sure that they also get walked and treated like a dog and can do dog stuff, Then you can come home and do baby stuff, but in that order.
Yeah. You want to watch that video?
Yeah, let's watch it.
Okay.
Scientists have discovered a surprising structure in the dog brain. They use this special MRI technique that traces the paths of white matter, those fibers that speed signals between different regions. And you can virtually dissect different routes. For example, here are the paths extending from the human olfactory peduncles, the region that processes smell, to other parts of the brain. But here is the dog brain.
Whoa. There's information freeways running from the nose to other parts of the brain.
Can you guess what this is circling?
It's going here.
Yeah, what is there? Do you know?
I have no idea what's here.
It's a little counterintuitive because in both humans and dogs, the place that we process vision is actually the back of our head. This occipital lobe back here.
Oh, so what you're saying is dogs are processing smell like we are processing sight? Sort of?
There you go.
What was, here it is, let's see. What was the lady, the chick that was in the Pirates of the Caribbean? I didn't know she was also a dog scientist. Well, that was the one that was sitting right there.
I don't know.
No, I'm just kidding. It looks just like her.
Oh.
So, what do you think of the video? What do you think of that scan?
Yeah, it's one of those things that we've been talking about for a long time, and it's not that I don't want to say we knew about it, but we talk about it all the time. Like that's one thing Caesar always says: the dog sees the world through its nose. They're born blind and deaf.
Now, what do you think it means that they are? It's actually in the visual center. So, how do you think that gets interpreted?
By humans or by
in the dog brain?
So, I listened to this podcast one time about this murder mystery podcast, and they were talking about how they use the cadaver dogs, and how I don't want to misquote it, but it had something to do with there are these scent cones that the dogs have that they're able to take in. It doesn't, like, I always thought of it like scent could hang around like vapors, but it's not. It's not like vapors, but how the dogs are able to still continue to smell even though the body has been removed for weeks. Like how, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was really fascinating in how they were talking about like how they can target stuff, how they can see, they can find it. So they, even though the thing that actually left the scent there is no longer there, they can actually still smell the thing, right?
No,
they can still see it.
I was going to say, I wonder if they can see it. I saw a study that they also, way back at the beginning, I thought dogs could sense us as temperature and frequency. And then I saw something that said that they thought they found pit vipers, like the same thing in snakes, like heat detection in the nose of dogs. So I'm curious then if, like you're saying, I wonder if they see smell, right? Are they seeing what you're talking about and almost like following a trail, like what in another like light spectrum or something? So
well, they did say that it does go to the vision, the occipital lobe, right? So that's the back of the brain that controls vision. And so why would it do that? It's not, I think there's like a whole other realm that maybe we haven't even touched or seen, that dogs can actually maybe see the thing that they're smelling. That makes sense?
This is why when I realized what this did, when I was like, okay, let's assume this guy has really got this dog able to answer all these questions. Like the one where I saw the other dog breed and was able to articulate it. This is where it goes back to what I think it is it has something to do with they are experiencing what we're putting out as a scent that they can interpret. It's almost we're answering the questions that we're asking them in our own mind. And they are able, through what you just saw in that brain scan right there, to do some form of process. Let's take this as far. Let's play this out, because to me, my brain went fucking nuts with this. So if this visual center is lighting up when the dog is using their nose, what happens when the dog stops using their nose and we start talking to them? Does it stop working? Do we make them blind when we talk to them? Think about it. So one of the things, I think this may be the answer to high level anxiety. Whenever you go into a home with high level anxiety, what are consistent factors at play? High verbal humans, almost in all of them. super, super verbal, humanized interactions, which means there's also a lot of visual stuff, right? So now we have a lot of eyes and ears. What do we see? The nose stops working. I don't know if you saw my post today. So when the nose stops working for an indefinite period of time, does that part of the brain paralyze? Right? Is this why dogs get stuck? And then it takes somebody to pull them into the woods and do the things that force the nose open to do the rehab. And it's why the owner can't, because that paralysis of the brain is associated to the sense of the owner when there is a scent. So what do you think? When we talk to them and
Make them
they
blind.
stop sniffing, that part stops working. So we're almost taking away their sensation to perceive. Maybe we like blind them, or then the other one is long-term effects. Does it atrophy that part of the brain? Is that why we see some of these anxious dogs so stupid, like the way they act? Because that part of the brain is almost paralyzed. They can't process information.
Yeah. Man, when I didn't think about this, but like when they talk about how it's connected to the vision, like is that the occipital lobe still controls their visual, right? But so like how are those two tied together?
Dude, exactly.
So like, man, this is gonna be. I'm gonna be up all night on this one.
Dude, you should have heard my brain when I was trying to like formulate. Did you see my post?
Yes.
Now, how about the memory aspects of this?
Yeah.
So where does this fall into play, right? So you see dogs, their memory is essentially, and we go back to the associative memory. The associative memory is held for many dogs in the nose, right? The nervous dogs only hold memory in the nose. You can see it over and over again, it seems, because when they look at things and they hear things, even if they've known them for years, it's not until they smell them that you can actually see the acceptance kick in. Why is that? Is there something in that part? If that part's not lit up, the brain's not working properly. Maybe that is the part that crosses one part of the brain into another, right? So the part that holds memory has to be activated to go through that part. And when the nose isn't engaged, it can't fire up. So to me, what I would love to see is, what does it look like when the dog is not sniffing, when the dog is not using, right? And they're using their ears and their eyes. What does that scan look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think they cited I'm really curious to see the study on it, because what other dogs? Because that's just one, I assume, right?
Yeah.
So like, again, what does that look like for the dogs let's find an anxious dog that's been studied, like all these. Oh man, this opens up a whole.
Here's the problem, Art. I don't believe most of the people that are running these tests even know what it means, in the sense that scientifically they may, but like the questions we're asking right now, I do not think you're going to be asked in a lab. Not from the standpoint of seeing could this be connected to anxiety? Are we going to see this connected to this? Because like the nose, eyes, ears, dog psychology theory is almost like Republican mindset. And all of this behavioral studies is run by the other side. And that's what you know what I mean? And so our approach to dogs is not the approach that most of these scientists are taking. They are taking the fear-free approach is the approach in research, meaning that this is the belief that is what is needed. What we're doing is not even just an outlier, but it is seen as the thing you don't want to do. So in scientific terms, the stuff we do, they'll test to prove it's wrong, as opposed to trying to generate information to come to conclusions. There was another study I saw not too long ago where they put a bunch of dogs in an MRI machine to prove that their brains light up the same way ours do in a certain situation. What was interesting to me, so this was the general study of it, I was going to do a post on it as well, was we put 150 dogs in an MRI machine, and what we saw is when, I can't remember now if it was a smell or a sound of the owner, a certain part of the brain lit up. And this is what they said: the part of the brain that lights up in humans when you're anticipating being with somebody you like. All right, now that's super vague, by the way. And so I start going, think of the variables involved in a study like this. What kind of dogs go in an MRI machine? None. Right? So imagine you're only going to be able to really get these happy-go-lucky dogs trained to do it. So now we've kind of honed a personality that can do it. We really don't have the variables of different behavioral aspects. They don't see those things. And so these studies are getting a little ridiculous. This is the coolest one I've seen in a long time, because it gives us access to knowledge. It's not just this, we think dogs are people, let's prove it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you talk about this, because I've been working with this dog, Dexter, And Dexter, I've been finding out some like information about, his upbringing and things like that, which, I've, they're just like, he's stuck in a way, right? And he uses his nose, but when he's in a news environment, like he just doesn't know how to, he doesn't know what to do. He either gets overly fearful where he moves forward, or he just doesn't want to move. And so he walks very stiff. And even as a young puppy, the owner shared with me some videos where he was moving very tight, like his back legs. They said they called it he has skinny jeans on. But I did see a video of him where he's actually playing. He looks a little more loose, and so I started asking, like, I asked him, I want you to go into your videos and find out when you can notice something changed. And they said it happened around this time, and that's when he had that experience where he was in a crate and he heard the next door neighbors doing the roof, and they came home and he had explosive diarrhea all over the place. And so they felt that maybe he just became trapped and fearful. But that doesn't explain why he's reactive. That doesn't explain any of that other stuff, right? Because he lives with the dog and he likes to play with this dog and he's very social with this dog. But, I got him out into the field that we have. I got him out to the field with my dogs, and he kind of moved, but not really. I got him to move, and, he wasn't going after my dogs. That's a plus, but he's just very avoidant of everything. And the moment he actually experiences joy or like something that we see as like, oh, they're happy, he immediately goes back to avoidance. Like he doesn't, it's almost like he experienced joy for a second. He's like, just kidding. I don't really like that much. And so he keeps going really back and forth. And so I met with the owners. Originally, I was going to say, hey, I want you to meet me at the field because I want you to experience what it feels like to have him around other dogs and you. But the night before, I was kind of thinking about this. I was like, you know what? I'm going to change my strategy here. Talking about changing strategy.
Yeah.
I texted him early in the morning. I'm like, hey, this is what we're going to do. I want you to go ahead and bring your other dog. I'm not going to bring my dogs. And we're going to associate this field with almost like his. Not his, but like a place of joy. Because I know if I bring my dogs, he's going to...
Because you wanted the joy from the owners and the other dog, and then next time you go there?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So he's experienced being in this field. He knows how to move. He experienced like what it is to be... Because I felt if I started it off with the owners and my dogs, that he would have a bad experience, that he felt the need to move forward with my dogs. So I was like, let's change it up. So we did that, and I haven't taken him back. But I just started asking some questions. I took some slow-mo video of him, of how he moves. And I've been talking to a colleague of mine named Nina. And Nina, is just like, oh, he's crab walking. I mean, he like walks sideways, right? And he trips on one leg all the time. And so I started asking questions. The owner's like, hey, like, when was he neutered? Like, what was his health like? Because he also has really bad skin, like just really bad allergies. So I know that there's something underlying that he has going on. So, I know that, they got him from a rescue that I've helped out with. And I was like, when was he neutered? They said, well, he got neutered at 16 weeks. Okay. It's pretty young.
Super young, man.
Really young, right? So then I started going through their social media, and I started looking at videos and pictures of him. And I saw that he had like eye surgery. And he was really young. He had like the cherry eye. And so I asked, like, when did he have the surgery? And I was like, at 10 weeks. So he got put under at 10 weeks to repair the eyes. And then from what I understand, they also got him neutered at 16 weeks. So 6 weeks after he had that surgery, they went and did the neuter at 16 weeks old, and then also had either the other eye or repaired the eye that maybe didn't take or something like that. So he was under anesthesia at a very young age. And he's also, getting neutered, so he's not getting any hormones, things like that. So it's been tough because, like, I've taken him like to a certain point, but now I'm like plateaued right now.
Can I go back to something?
Yeah.
Did your friend? The crab walk can mean like back stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
So are you able to get to where there's anybody that's helped you visually identify things that you might be able to target?
Yeah, so that's one thing we saw in the slow motion walk. You can kind of see how his gait, his walk, his leg goes out, and then you see something like one of the tendons like pop out. It's really weird. I'll send it to you.
Do you think that goes back to what we talked about last week, where that the joyful reaction? Are you able to see that if he has a joyful moment, is he reacting to the energy or a movement that he does? Like, can we identify that this is pain, or do you think it's neurologically something that's going on there?
Well, I think it is something neurologically because of how he trips quite a bit, right?
Okay.
But I can't prove it. I'm just making an assumption here, right?
Yeah.
And I also don't want to startle the owners because I definitely want him to get checked out, like with some.
Can I make a suggestion? This is
Yeah.
going to sound, I mean, don't laugh. Have him tested for Lyme.
Oh, I know that. We've always talked about that. You and
Because
I.
stiffness and almost like a paralysis, and it's so Bartonella, which is also a variation that they can go in the brain and create neurological issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so movement, gait issues are a big part of Lyme. So I'm not saying, and it's hard to detect, and it's even if they find it, it's not like they can do much, but it might answer a lot of this because it's also they spend a lot of time in pain.
Yeah.
Okay, so that you would find there's pain there, and just a shot in the dark.
No, I totally agree. That's something you and I have talked about off camera, Lyme and how, I mean, even within humans, how a lot of people are misdiagnosed.
Correct.
Someone we know was misdiagnosed as depression. It actually ended up being Lyme disease.
The misdiagnosis is autism.
Yeah.
So she got misdiagnosed with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll do a podcast on it because I think being in the animal world, what we're learning here through Jen is that it is endemic in the animal world. And so I think it's important to know because with it gets in families, right? So if the dog has it, you can have it, you have the dog. So it's something that you will see one shape or form, one side or the other if it's in the family, but what the dog is going through kind of mimics some of what I've looked up. So who knows?
The good thing is like he has really good owners that really care, and they're like, we'll do whatever. Like, so they're up for.
How old is he?
What year is it? 20? He's 4 years old.
And how old was he when they started to notice a shift in him from what he was until what he said?
I don't remember, but I want to say that, I mean, they gave me the date. But I mean, it was, I just think it's a combination of things, right? It's a lot of things that has come to this. He's right here. He's passed out. And so, I started to here's the thing, when they came to my house last week and, wanted them to experience like walking them and walking with another dog. And so we went on a walk, and it was funny because as soon as we get 2 houses down from my place, he's already, by the way, I said, hey, I want you guys to walk behind me. I don't want him to see you. So I want you to kind of come behind me. But he, felt something behind them, probably smelled them, and got really excited. And so I was like, all right, just go ahead and walk with me. Just come on, walk with me. And as soon as then he's already getting really, really excited about it. And so we took that energy 2 houses down. And then right in that moment, a woman walks out with her Chihuahua off leash. He loses it, right? He loses it. And so I have him on the slip lead, and then I kind of just move him around, get him to move, and then he recovers. And so that was a good thing that he actually was able to recover.
You talked about that last week, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so he's able to recover. I mean, I've experienced it without the owners, but he recovers really fast, which has been really good.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
When he's joyful over the owners, does he do that joyful to avoidant thing with them, or does he stay in a joyful mode with them?
He stays in a joyful moment with them, but I could see another video where when I met them at the field, I was like, hey, I just want you to ignore it. Just keep moving. Just keep moving, right? So because this thing, I had them on a long line, and I tethered them, and they walked in. I was like, I need for them to die down a little bit. And it's a balance between, I want to shut down to excitement, but I don't want to shut down the excitement either, right? And so I just said, hey, I just want him to bring it down a little bit. I want him to experience joy, but what happens is he gets a little bit too excited. And that same motion that he has when he's excited is the exact same thing he does when he sees another dog. It's exactly the same. Same vocalness, it's different intention, right? So all the actions are the same. So I was like, look, I want him to be able to recover from this and when he sees another dog. So I said, I'm going to wait till he kind of settles a little bit and recover. And I got this on film too, by the way. It's available to our members on the member page, by the way. And so then we settled. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go and take the long line off. So I took, let the long line go. So I was like, just keep walking, just keep ignoring them, right? And so he was excited to see them. And what happens, he just started following them and looked real nice. Like he looked like a normal dog. Like I was like, this is good. Like this is exactly what I want him to experience. And then all of a sudden he started to avoid going towards the car. He would walk away. I say, all right, what I want you to do is I want you to go grab the leash and bring him out. I don't want him to get stuck doing an avoidance. So we do that. And it's the second he would like make an attempt to go right to shift to avoidance, I'd switch him again. So I got him just to switch over and over. And he did pretty good with it. He did really good with it, actually. And so it was cool to see that he was actually have a little bit of joy in him. But the challenge has become, now that he experienced it, now he's been in my house. Now I feel like I'm starting all over when he first came in. Doesn't want to go on a walk.
Seriously? So it's like all the phone settings came back.
Yeah. And
That's
so
crazy, right?
I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I already know what I did. So I did the same thing. I get him to keep moving, pick up my pace. I also changed, because I know we had mentioned that we used the figure 8 on him, right? Mm-hmm. Which they need something to control him, like because the owner is going to get knocked down. I've been able to use a slip lead with him, but what I did is, Colleen has those leashes that have like a slip lead on one, and it's like the handle, but it kind of loops around with a clasp. So it's like a double leash. So what I did is use a slip lead on one, put the Halti on him, mm-hmm. connect that to the bottom of the Halti. So the safety is the slip lead, right? And so that has worked really good for him, really good. Because I feel like
how come you didn't use an e-collar?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm kind of nervous with using with him
because of the way he's responding to the pressure.
Yeah. So I've thought about it, but I kind of want, because I know sometimes like when they kind of shut down, you can kind of use it to propel them to move forward sometimes.
Well, I mean, I was just asking, it's different versions of pressure. And so I'm just curious, what's up, bud? And I'm just curious.
It's been in the back of my mind, but I kind of.
No matter what, don't let them bring you toys and tell you to play. Don't ever do that. That's the wrong thing to do. Because it'll make them control you. Huh? There you go, buddy.
Yeah, so, I want to get him to, at least at the bare minimum, I want him to be able to just go on a walk and just experience going on a walk, right? Without having to, that's my main goal. That's all.
That's it. A walk with no avoidance.
Yeah, that's all I really want. And no forwardness either. And so this morning on the Halti, he had the gauntlet come out. He had, some runners, which he had, he doesn't really like runners. And I just kind of used the pressure with the Halti, and then I just brought his head back around. It didn't take a lot. Don't have to be really forceful, just kind of guide his head around. But then I also used the slip lead to kind of move his body into me. So I put pressure to move the head and then his body into me. And then he's like, okay. Then he just started moving forward. And he actually did pretty good with that. Didn't have the explosion. So, and, it's just one of those things, you work with these dogs that, you kind of feel something maybe going on, but you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And so,
how many neurological cases would you say you've had?
I would say, if you want to consider like dogs that have not had mothers, not a natural upbringing.
That's developmental. That's developmental. I think developmental and neurological are a little bit different, right? So developmental would be like a singleton puppy.
What's a singleton puppy?
That's what you're saying. A dog, or like a puppy born, one puppy out of a litter.
Oh, yeah.
Things like that. Like you say, puppies that don't have mothers,
mm-hmm.
That type of stuff for sure. But like neurological, like where there was brain damage that was causing it. And if so, how do you, like you've been talking now, how do you think you catch it? I can remember one obvious one I had where I had a dog that was really reactive. And I ended up, when I was working with it, I had back tied it, and I was doing something, and I was walking in front of it. I moved my hand, and my hand was over on this side, but the dog lunged this way. So it looked like it was almost like crossing over. And so she took it to the doctor, and somehow they were able to figure out that the optic nerve was never attached to the brain. So the dog was seen in double and triple. They said that's how they explained it. So I highly connected that to the reactivity. There was another one I had. It was an obvious neurological one because the way it was aggressive in a weird way. It was like the pattern was off. It would bah, rah, and it would do this weird, kind of weird thing. I think, this is going to be something that could light a lot of people on fire. I think vaccines are creating some, I don't know if it's neurological issues, but I definitely think it's creating some developmental issues because they're getting so many vaccines so fast. So they're getting the average one, I think they get 6 or 7 per vaccinated schedule, right? So you get your 4-month-old, you get your 8-week-old puppy home and you take it to the vet and they give it 7 vaccinations in that one shot.
Yeah.
And then that happens again and it happens, and it keeps happening. There's no way that can't be doing something.
Yeah. I don't know if you follow Rodney Habib. He's the guy, him and Karen Becker, Dr. Karen Becker, they wrote that book called The Forever Dog.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, taking a natural approach and things like that to, well, not just behavior, it's, health and,
Right.
it's all tied together. So he posted, is this yesterday, a new study found neutered dogs appeared more stressed and aggressive than intact dogs.
Yep.
Neutered dogs were also less social, trainable, emotionally calm, and extroverted than intact dogs. Hormonal change have an influence on dog behavior, right? And so and this came out yesterday when I was kind of thinking about, him and knowing that he was neutered very young, so it's like, what are we, and we talk about like Caesar, like always says like, oh, I can help any dog as long as they don't have any neurological problems. But even though we talked about Buddha, you mentioned Buddha on, not my dog Buddha, but Buddha from DPC on Pack Talking podcast. I listened to that podcast.
Oh, okay.
You kind of mentioned how he had some neurological issues, but Caesar knew how to work around the things, right? Yeah. And so that's my thing with him is like, how can we work around the things that has caused him trouble? So that's, again, if I can my goal for him is just to go on a walk so the owners can enjoy it, not be so stressed out. That's all I really want from this dog.
I like it's kind of done something for you. It's kind of opened you up, and it's like a creative kind of, I don't know.
That's all I think about this guy now. When you first start your career, you're always like, you want to learn everything, right? And so this is kind of like, it's opened up a whole new thing with this dog. It's like, I wonder why, and what can we do to help? Right? So my creative brain is just going off the charts right now. Now you showed me this video. Now I'm just like,
right?
There's not enough hours in the day to watch it all and read it and stuff like that. So
the greatest compliment I ever got from Caesar was that somebody goes, "What do you like about him?" He goes, "His creativity." He's like, "All right, I'll take it." So I mean, it's what it takes. You have to be able to see things, guess, move pieces around. That's why I'm asking questions like, so when are you seeing the dog act this way? Because we know we're seeing what we're asking each other. We both know the direction we're taking it. How is this associated to this, or how did this get connected to that? And trying to break that down. That's the chess match that I love about this.
The other thing is the other day I was going to walk him and I took Buddha with me, my dog Buddha. And when I was walking the door, I was like, do I really need the muzzle? And I said, you know what? If I have to ask a question, the answer is always yes.
Yeah.
So I put the muzzle on, go around the block, and there's a house that lives behind me, and they always have their dogs like off leash in the front yard, right? And they always charge us every time we walk by. And I was walking.
They charge all the way out, or they just charge to the edge of their yard?
They go towards the sidewalk where we're at.
Fuck.
Yeah, 3 Yorkies, okay? And I hear them in the backyard all the time. So I'm walking and I can hear the dogs in the backyard. I'm like, okay, cool. We're clear. Well, 2 houses over from them has small dogs that are, apparently I didn't know this, were also barking, okay? So I thought it was those dogs. So I'm walking Dexter on my left hand. I have Buddha on my right hand. These dogs charge out, okay? It's a big 95-pound pitty on muzzle. Luckily, he was on muzzle because he muzzle punched that dog that ran out, scared the shit out of the owner. I'm like, look, why do you keep letting this happen, right? And she was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, okay. But that was not the bad part. The bad part was that as I'm there, Buddha comes around and he redirects on Buddha, which I was thankful that I had a muzzle. And I was like, I kind of feel he may do this. And I had also been concerned that he actually may do that to me, like redirect on me. I hadn't seen him do that. He obviously could now that I see him with Buddha, but now I have a frame of like what he does, like what motion he does, what he's going to do. So I've already filed that in my filing cabinet to say, I know what he's going to do next time. So I can approach it a little bit differently, but he recovered really good, really good. He settled him there. The lady's like,
this is big. You just did something that you always find the win.
Right.
You know what I mean? Think of how shitty that was. Muzzle punched another dog, fucking tried to attack your dog. And at the end of it, you go, but he recovered quick. You know, I was thinking of that today because Blue is an interesting dog. She's really good. She's really social, but you have to honor the context to her behavior, right? So if I have her on the golf cart, for example, and she's laying on the back of the golf cart and somebody walks straight up to her, direct eye contact, wanted to pet, she's going to bark at him. She's going to bark at him. Is she a bad dog? No, she meets my clients almost every day, right? I mean, I've watched her interact with how many people. But if you get caught up in that, because how many people go, I just simply can't have that.
Yeah, I know.
I could never. Well, then, dude, good luck. Because that's the thing is you have to be able to accept certain things. And then like you did and go, okay, we're going into this situation. What can I expect to see? What do I want to do? That talk saves you a lot of feeling of failure. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's the part that the little things that people would do well to honor is go, hey, yeah, it's not always going to be perfect, but my dog's good here, here, and here. Let me just go and accept certain things or work with certain things. And if you really want to improve it, you can, but most people aren't going to have the time or effort. But acceptance goes a long way to finding the wins versus thinking that was a failure. Almost every one of the people that we work with, without fail, would not have walked away from that situation and found a positive.
Yeah.
Not if the dog tried to attack a strange dog and your dog right at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they would have been mad at the neighbor. I'm never going down the street again.
Well, I was definitely mad. I made a video. I was super pissed, but then I was like, you know what? Nobody got hurt. It's not that big of a deal.
Mad like this? I said, what do you look like when you're mad like this?
I mean, I'll show you the video. Actually, I was mad, but
I don't think you're an awesome human anymore. Huh. And you walk away.
I mean, honestly, I just kind of looked at her. I'm like, hey, like this happens all the time. And she was
you
like,
know
I'm so sorry.
Lesson. That owner learned a lesson by her dog getting punched like that. What kind of dog?
3 Yorkies. One had a diaper on outside. Weird.
So that dog muzzle punch, dude, that could have hurt that. That would have killed that dog if you didn't have the muzzle on it.
Yeah.
You would have grabbed it.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I've been hurt with a muzzle on.
Yeah. These are metal muzzles too, by the way. It's
What's
not
that?
like it's a metal muzzle too. It's like a polymer coated muzzle. You know, it's metal. Actually, it's this one. Look at this ginormous thing, dude.
Have you ever been to morco.com?
You've told me about this place.
Yeah, that place has the best muzzles, dude. It's all these different custom muzzles, variations of muzzles, specialty muzzles.
I'm a big fan of the Learberg muzzles. They have like 30 different sizes, and the reason I like these so much is because it actually allows the dogs to pant and open up their mouth. Yeah. And then this kind of sits on their face. So
it's not constrictive of any way.
Yeah, you get like the Baskerville muzzle. I freaking hate those muzzles. I know everyone likes those.
And it looks like it's open here too, right? So the jowls aren't getting tightness on the strap on it.
And you can open it up if you need to.
Okay.
So, and those, there's a bunch of different companies, that offer them, but I just have really liked these. But if you get hit by it, it is metal. It's going to hurt.
Oh, yeah.
So.
It's getting smacked with a metal tennis racket.
Oh, man. We're already at an hour.
Yeah.
By the way, like I said, I heard you on the podcast, and Bobby is a listener of our podcast as well. I'm going to count. I did a game while I was listening to the podcast. How many times Bobby said follow through? I was drunk at the end.
Shut up. What follow through? What was he saying it about?
That's the word. He's like, what they're missing is follow through.
Oh.
He just kept saying follow through over and over. I'm like, how many times am I going to hear follow through?
That's great. Those are good guys.
Yeah.
Right on.
Good episode.
Good talk.
All right. Have a good one.
See you, brother.
Yeah.